Hello and welcome to Man, Woman, God. Tonight my guests are Erin Goedhart and Christine Taylor. Last week we talked about marriage, our first part, and today we are continuing on the second part with our series. Ladies, welcome back.
Thank you.
Now that was great last week. I loved everything that we talked about, and I went home and thought about it all, and has, for the whole week been thinking about all these things. So it's been amazing. I just think, it's just so wonderful, and that, we can sit here and talk about issues in marriage, and, because, you don't really get many people sitting down and actually saying, you don't see a lot of things on TV either about marriage.
Not positive things. And we need to, as communities and families and friends, we need to talk about it more.
Now, ladies, last week we ended up talking about counselling. That was sort of the last thing, and, when two people are struggling, how important counselling is. Now, I want to pose this question to you. What if one person in that relationship doesn't want to go to counselling? What do you do? How do you solve this problem?
I think the other person should still go on their own, because it's rare that a problem in a marriage is one-sided. So you can still get help for what your part is in the marriage. And even if it is one-sided, you can get some support and some tools from a good counsellor, and you do need to research and get a good counsellor. But you can get some support for yourself and some tools of how to work through those issues in your marriage at home.
Okay. What about you, Christine?
Yeah, definitely get a counsellor on your side too, a good counsellor, because I have had friends that have gone to a counsellor, not Christian counsellor, but just was saying, well, you can stick together, we can separate, it's up to you. There was no support there at all, and they're there opening their hearts out and going, can you please help us? And there was no guidance whatsoever. So I think if your partner's not going to come with you, go. You need to go anyway, because you need to be... You need to be happy about yourself too, and that you're putting in the most effort that you can into this relationship. And you never know, you might just start rubbing off onto your other partner, and to be on board that they do need counselling, and they might see improvement as well. So it does take two, but if they see a happier you and an encouraging you, they might come with you.
And it's still that quiet acknowledgement to your partner that something is wrong here, and I'm getting support for it. So when they're ready, they might say, you know what, I'm going to come along.
Yes.
Okay, that's very positive. I like that. Now, let's have a look at marriage in our 21st century. There's challenges, and I think far more now than it was back when maybe our grandparents' parents, because obviously there wasn't that much divorce back then, but it is now. And what is the 21st century marriage facing?
I think the biggest thing is materialism, and I think it is so clever and so devious the way materialism seeps into our life in so many different areas. So there's the whole mentality of if it's broken, just get a new one. We don't fix things. But there's also the other pressures that materialism brings to a marriage. So we want lots of things. So maybe if there's children in the marriage, mum can't stay at home and run a family. She needs to work full time so that they can, I heard someone say once, we spend too much time buying things we don't need with money we don't have to impress people we don't like.
So true.
I love that.
And
it's very true.
It's so very true. So it shifts, I think materialism shifts our focus outward rather than inward, on the family, on the home, on husband and wife, children, and that kind of thing.
Okay.
I think it's also focusing on what can I get from this. It's what about me. So it's even some of the ads, it's like, drive an Audi, you deserve it. Like, it's sort of like, it's all about me, what's in it for me, and it's not about giving, about serving other people, just loving other people in your community. It's very self-centred, and I think...
Totally.
So
have you seen that Jeep ad where the husband says to the wife, I'm presuming they're husband and wife, so what did you get? And she said, I bought a Jeep. And he's like, but it's like as if they don't
communicate at all.
Communicated about this. Like, she's decided, I'm just going to go and do whatever I like, and I've bought a Jeep, but I'm so fantastic. And if you buy a Jeep, and like even the kids are saying, oh, Mum, they've got a Jeep, or if things like that. So that sort of gets into our society.
It's very insidious,
and it just seeps in there. It's like Satan. He just comes in, and under the door, and he infiltrates the whole thing and just makes a total mess of everything. So, where do you think marriages are headed? We don't have a crystal ball, so we can't see, but
I see a really positive future for marriage, but I don't think it's going to happen by itself. I think there needs to be a really strong movement of people of faith and people who believe in marriage to stand up, to talk about it, and to be a bit more proactive about saving the institution of marriage and families. So I think the future is really bright because we know that the other option doesn't work. We've got all the evidence that shows that doesn't work, but it's not going to magically happen. We need to talk about it. We need to support neighbours and friends and in-laws with their marriages, and we need to fight for it.
Totally. Now let's talk about kids, because, it's really important to influence, and as we know, being Christian parents, influence and direct, to direct our kids on the right path. And marriage is such a big thing, and I think we sort of don't. That's not a big education thing, is it? I mean, we live by example, but we also need to say, whose job is it to educate our children? And another question that you should think about is that should we be helping our kids find their partners? Should we be having a say?
Yes.
Good luck.
Yes, I hope you're listening, girls.
Yes. Oh, they will be. Christine, let's start with you. What do you think?
In guiding them, obviously guiding them to the right partner, I mean, by being good examples, definitely. I don't know how much they're going to... I definitely
But I think if you influence them now, they will want to hear you have your opinion. Of course they'll ask for your opinion.
And that the person, they need to open the car door, and you need to think about other people. You need to speak nicely to everybody, and you need to think of others and serve others as well. So you definitely can influence them. It has to be the parents. You can't rely that on schools at all. Although I think schools could step up a little bit in... Just, I know one of our major challenges in our marriage was say financial. Well, just getting a hold of finances. Don't use the credit card, and just have a basic maths class in how to budget and how. So I think there is definitely life skills that can be brought into the schooling system. And in the long run, it's got to be cheaper for the government if they have that kind of system coming through, because they don't have all these break-up marriages and divorces and children who are losing their way. And that reflects then on maybe their career choices, that they're not quite sure which way to go. They don't feel confident in themselves because they've come from a broken home. So I think definitely from the parents, and I believe schools can definitely step up.
And exactly, I think we need to have a lot of influences coming in, positive influences, not just your parents, but outside influence as well.
Definitely, I think even if you don't have children, your marriage is an example to other children.
Exactly,
and
beautiful.
I talk to my girls all the time about marriage. I've even done a very specific lesson with them about marriage, which was super fun. We went through the Bible, we looked at what does the Bible teach us about marriage, and then I cut out a whole heap of attributes for a potential spouse. Things like good-looking, Christian,
Now, Erin, we just have to
wealthy.
take a break, but we'll come back and you can tell us more about that.
Okay, sure.
Thanks, Erin. We'll be back in a few minutes. Welcome back. I'm talking all things marriage with Christine Taylor and Erin Goedhart. Ladies, now before we left, Erin, you were telling us about your little marriage lesson to your girls.
Yes, I did a great little lesson plan with my girls about marriage where I itemised 10 qualities that you might find in a potential spouse. Some were good, some were not so good, and some it didn't really matter. So things like good looking, honest, hard working, wealthy, Christian, funny, a whole heap of things like that. And then I gave them a little sheet and I said, okay, you can choose 5 of these. And just imagine, this is not how it works, but just imagine you could choose only 5 of those qualities. What would you choose? And it was wonderful. They both very quickly chose 4.
Right.
And they really got stuck on the 5th one. One of my girls was like, I really am stuck between good looking and wealthy. And it was great. We talked about that. We talked about, well, you know what, that's okay. That's an important thing. And I shared with my daughters how, I said, when you fall in love with someone, they just become better and better looking. So you maybe don't need to worry about that.
Very true.
Yeah. And wealthy, that's terrific because poverty just crushes souls like
it
nothing.
Does.
But at the same time, if you marry for money and then that money does disappear through the course of your marriage, you need to be able to deal with that as well.
Totally. You know, and just adding to that, Erin, is that I was a Christian at a very young age, and I just remember someone saying to me, because I had some great support by older ladies in my church, and I remember them saying to me, you know, if you want a husband that will really, you know, honour you and you know, you'll have a great marriage, write down everything in a book that you want the qualities of your husband. And so, you know, I just sat there writing things. I just remember thinking, I've been out with guys before, and what didn't I like about them? What do I really want? What do I, Nikki, really want in a husband? And, you know, I wrote down all these qualities, and I remember just closing the book, praying over it, and just saying, you know, God, just... and honour that, and God does honour that, because I think if you just, you know, He knows the desires of your heart.
Yes.
And so basically when I did meet my husband, there were a lot of boxes that were ticked, and it's so amazing because you think, God, you actually were looking at what I was writing. But it's amazing because I think we do need to do that. We do need to say, you know, this is what I want. There's nothing wrong with wanting a husband. I know a lot of single people, it's like, you know, it's not a subject that we talk about because it's like, you know, you're seen as desperate or...
Yes,
but
you're
it's
too
like
picky.
God has got God wants us to be in relationship, not just with each other, but have a husband and, you know, and have a good marriage.
And I think talking with kids about it before hormones and infatuations get involved, you can really have a good conversation with them about it. And it should be an ongoing conversation.
Exactly. Challenges, struggles, struggles in your marriage, because we've all had them.
Yes.
Tell me a little bit about your struggles, if you can, and how did you deal with them?
Start?
Go, Christine. Go, Christine.
Oh, my goodness.
You've obviously got quite a few.
All night. What do we start with? Like I said, we weren't Christians at first. So when we first got together, very young, moved out from home straight in, and, you know, it's silly little things like, you know, not even picking up after himself. And so we had those silly little things at first of a new marriage. But later on, after we became Christians, it actually was sometimes even harder. So just because you're Christian doesn't mean it's all perfect and you don't have any challenges, and especially when we had the children. So it definitely opened cracks up that were there before, but they just opened up even more. So for us, probably financial struggles was the main thing. But for me, I'll just talk about me personally, is the control. So I've always been in control. I'm an accountant, everything balances out. And then from there I went to martial arts where you've got full control over everything and it's got nothing to do with God. So apparently it's all you, and He has no plan for you whatsoever. So that's where I've coming from, and then come into this relationship, and now become a Christian, and I'm going, but I can't hear anything. Am I praying it the right way? And I was still going through these massive struggles. And for Shane and I, we just really had to work through our own personal demons as well, and get through those struggles, and look for the good and pray. I actually the book was a book for the praying wife, because I didn't know how to say it.
I think we've all got that book.
I know, it's an awesome book.
It is
and
great.
I'm like, I need to pray it, and I might pray it the wrong way. So I actually bought the book and read it chapter by chapter. And the chapter number 1, it's actually nothing to do with the husband. And I'm like, what?
Yes.
Apparently it's all to do with you. And I'm like, no, this is the wrong book. So so keep reading and keep praying and realising what is important to Shane, what is... how a man ticks, and it's different to how a lady approaches things. And I actually had to take a half a step back, and I had to let go. And one of the things I had to let go was finances. And like I said, my background's accounting, so who else but me to pay the bills and look after everything? But I actually had a great mentor, and she said, let it go, just let it go, don't pay them, let him do them. I'm going, we're going to be like sitting in the dark. She goes, if your electricity gets cut off, it gets cut off.
Christine, we have to take a break, but I'll come back, because that's actually, that's fantastic. We'll be back in a few minutes. Welcome back. Now, Christine, before the break, you were talking about some financial struggles that you've had.
I think more the finances.
And I have to say, finances is a huge thing with marriage, isn't it? It's one of the biggest problems, I think. So
I think going back to a single income, having 2 kids, and I think it's not so much the finances. I think it was more control. letting it go, realising that you're both in this together, that you can pray about this together. You can pray it separately too. So if your partner is not quite there yet, that's fine. So, and it was focusing on, it brought it back. So in the end, it wasn't even really finance, just bringing it back and what can I do to make the situation better? What can I do to make a more positive influence to Shane, so that he felt that. So I actually had to take a half step back, and he took a full step forward and said, this is my family and this is my role and this is my responsibility. But up to that point, I think we had a struggle of him taking it from me or me letting it go. So once that happened, and giving it to God and giving it like, you know what, I am not in control of this, and there is a purpose here and there's a reason why we're going through this.
I loved what you said about, the whole thing about it's not about me. It's, you've got to put someone else before you. And I think as we live in a society where it is about you, it's like everything is about, the world, whatever you want, go for it. Go, if it makes you feel good, go for it. I can't stand that statement, but I see it so often. I just think, but, I just think that's what it is. It's about being selfless. Yes. I love it. I loved what you said. And praying together, that's really,
it's been
keeping
so
God, I think keeping God in the centre of your marriage can be the hardest thing.
It is.
But I think it's the most rewarding. He's got you, he's there, it's like, that's when things start to happen. I love that. What about you, Erin?
I'd say our biggest struggle has been work-life balance. My husband is such an amazing hard worker and a very ethical person and a very honest person. So whenever he has had a job, he has given everything to it. And especially when kids came along, that really started to impact the family if he was working late nights or on weekends. So getting that work-life balance has been our biggest struggle, and it's an ongoing one. It hasn't been magically fixed. It's come up regularly over the last 10 years, 13 years, and even this year he took some time off from work. He went and got some counselling to get some skills and develop strategies of how to balance things better, and it's been fantastic since he did that and made that commitment to himself and to the family, but it's an ongoing one. It's interesting that you said about, both of you actually said about when kids have come along, and and the thing is, we think, yes, kids are great, they are from God, but this kids could make or break a marriage really sometimes, because it's whoever tells you that you're going to have to cut back a bit when you have kids, you've got to, this is what you're going to face, blah blah blah, nobody really tells you that, and then you just have these kids, and it's like, because that's what's expected in a sense. How do you
it definitely can't be selfish, it doesn't work at all. I think with children, for us, it did open up some cracks. So I'm saying that financial struggles came then, but it was more, you need to put God first, you need to pray, but you just get busy, and you need to put your husband first before the children. But when you've got newborn babies, that can't happen. And unfortunately, when they come in after a long day at work, they're not number one, and sorry, but here's the baby, I need to get out, I need some time to myself, because you put in so much effort and so much time. So I don't know when the magic figure is of how old they are, but there has got to be a time that you need to take note of your marriage and put that effort back into your husband, because he's been so supportive and waiting so patiently to get through the baby stage. So because they're a blessing, they're amazing and
they are, but it changes the whole dynamic. You've gone from just you two to a family and with each child. But I think as kids get older, it does get easier. And there are little things you can do every day. When Lenny leaves the house every day, he kisses all of his girls goodbye. No boys in our house. All of his girls goodbye. He always kisses me last. It doesn't matter which of the girls he kisses first or second, there's no order, but I'm always the last one he kisses before he leaves.
And you get the biggest kiss?
I do. You've got to work for it.
And the kids trying to worm their way in, but you've got to remind them, and it's not to hurt their feelings, but you've got to remind that mummy and daddy are number one to each other, and that is hard for a young child. They go, what about me? And they yes, you are important, but they probably don't realise that just what a blessing they've got this marriage and to look up to in parents that are together.
Having that security in that mum and dad do come first to each other, it gives them the security that divorce takes away.
Yes.
But you don't want to get to the end of when the kids have left home, because you want to make sure you keep a check on your marriage.
Yes, of course.
Because it's always going to be an ebb and flow. You're going to go well sometime, then it's not. You're not going to go well. Because you don't want to get to that end when the kids have left and you go, who is this person, and do I actually really love you? And is it time to separate?
That's why you need date nights. I'm a big fan of date nights.
Beautiful.
Yeah, we do date nights every week, and when we've got a babysitter, we go out. When we don't, we have a date night at home, and we tell the girls, we say, look, Mum and Dad are having a date night, so that's your part of the house, this is our part of the house, and we'll see you in an hour.
Perfect.
Sometimes it's just an hour. But it's our time, and it's a beautiful example to them as well.
Yeah.
Now, ladies, with our limited time, I have to ask you, this is a really good question to end off this two-part series. How do you, and it's a little bit of a futuristic question, but how do you get to the end of your life, look back and say, you know what, I really enjoyed my marriage, I enjoyed that, thank you God, that was great.
Yeah. I think if you're going through struggles at the moment and you're feeling overwhelmed, it's not going to be like that forever. You will get through, okay? Use the tools, use your friends, have the prayer over you, grab a great book, and you'll get through it, and then there'll be happy times. Like Shay and I can't remember, I know we went through struggles, but we can't really remember how we got there or it's...
what the issues were.
Yeah, what the issues were. So, I think it's... the love that you have for each other, it will be there, and the children and the family and friends, you'll be a testimony to a great marriage, and look back look back at the photos and be happy about it.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Erin, what about you?
Look, I would say two things. Invest and never stop investing in your marriage. Give it everything. Friends will come and go, careers will come and go. Your marriage is for eternity. So invest in it. Books, counselling, holidays, weekends, just keep investing. And the other thing I would say is, have you heard of the triangle principle?
No.
Okay, so in a marriage you've got, say, man on this side, woman on this side, and God at the top.
Yes, right.
Now, as each person moves closer to God, they're moving closer together. Can you see that going up the triangle?
Yes.
So invest in your relationship with God, because it's only going to bring you closer to your partner.
Definitely.
Beautiful. I just love it. That is so important, always just having God in that centre, and I think we just have to keep focusing on Him, isn't it? We just have to keep bringing ourselves back, even if we, stray, and that's the most important thing. Ladies, it has been an absolute pleasure talking to the two of you. I think I'm going to have you come back at some stage to talk a little bit more about marriage, because this is like a never-ending subject, isn't it?
It is.
It's been so wonderful. Erin, thank you so much. Christine,
thank you, Nikki.
Been an absolute pleasure. Thank you so much. Well, that's all we have for tonight on the show, but if you missed our first part of this marriage series, you can catch us on manwomangod.org. I just pray that your marriage is full of the love of God and that you will always seek Him in everything that you do. So for me, Nikki, God bless you. Good night.